Good afternoon. We are very honored to be up here to share the word, to share God's story in our life. It's kind of long. Y'all got let out a little early last week, so we're going to make up for it this week because both of us we want to share both sides because we believe that they're both valuable. They both share different aspects of the same situation and varying aspects of God and how he moved in our life. So, yeah.
Thank y'all. I've spoken in front of many people before. It's never been an issue. It's mostly been about work, right? So I've led men and women to work, to battle, I guess, every day. But this is a whole other level. This is my testimony. This is something nobody else really ever got. So bear with me. The enemy. He's been hard at it the last couple weeks since it seems like particularly since the pastor asked us to get up here and share our word. Things have not been going right at work. My truck's been breaking down. Just the enemy's using everything he can to distract me, to pull me away from doing this. He's getting on my nerves, everything else. So what does that tell me? This word needs to get out. We believe that there are many people that have been through this similar situation as us, and we just want to give you our story. So we're going to start with our background just a little bit. Myself, again, my name is Phil New. This is my beautiful wife, Erin. We got married in November 11th, 2006. So about November, I remembered it, guys. November, we're coming up on 18 years. So we condensed that down to about 3 hours today. I hope y'all are good. So, if you will, that's us. That was baby. We're babies, man. We're kids. But let's go to the slide of my family. I'll show you all my family. I was the baby. I'm the youngest of four. Obviously, that's me. That's my mom, Linda. That's my older sister, Nikki. That's the older sister, Talitha. And that's my oldest sister, Jen. My father was not around. This is the father of this generation. I don't want to put that curse on us. We don't own that. But I was in a family of women. I was the baby. I was the only boy. My mom did all the things. She went to work. I got to give her a lot of credit. She wasn't the type to bring men into my life constantly. There's only about 3 over 19 years that I distinctly remember. So I appreciate her. She was looking, but there was only a few men that was actually introduced to me in my life, and I think each of them had a small impact. So I give this woman a lot of credit. She made it do. She made it work. I had a group of friends, and we were all in the same situation. None of us had a dad. The moms were, present, working. Even one of my friends, the mom was completely unpresent, and he was raised by the grandma. So we stuck together really tightly, right? There was not really a male influence in our lives to tell us what this is good, this is bad. Moms, we just kind of disappeared. We were with our friends in a small city. And we got into all the trouble we could possibly find. The law really wasn't involved too much. It was just a bunch of rowdy kids, but that led to alcohol. We didn't really like that. We got into drugs, and it started really small, just little drugs. But then as it advanced through the years, through my high school years, anything we can get our hands on, we were there. So just kind of a wild bunch. We had ourselves a reputation, and we stuck together. That was me. I was my friends. They were me. We were just the little druggy kids that kind of run around, right? So that was my identity. I embraced that. We were good at partying. My dad was an alcoholic. He was never part of the picture. The only glimpse of memory I have is peeking out the window, or not the window, the door, and my mom yelling at him, "I'm calling the cops," and I see his silhouette through the light. That was the only memory I have of my dad. But knowing he was an alcoholic, he was abusive, I told myself, I'm not going to be no alcoholic. I'm smarter than that because our brains are a powerful thing, right? Mind over matter. That was my thought. My mom would bring me to church quite a bit. We didn't go every single time it was open, but she was pretty faithful in bringing us. And generally, it was the exact same church, so I knew the people. I know they were praying for me, but I didn't have no time in my life. I was like, no, I don't want to go to church. So every chance I got, I wouldn't go. But when I was like 13 or 14, I did accept Jesus. I don't remember the exact date or anything, but we had the youth group there from Oklahoma, and I remember, I see everybody like, oh, I hope he does it. I hope he does it. So kind of under the pressure, I was like, hey, all right, yeah, Jesus, be my Savior. I accept it. And I got baptized. And I believe that had a profound impact on my life. Whether I truly meant it or it was just kind of because of the pressure, it opened the door to Jesus. So, I think at that point we became acquaintances. He wasn't my Lord and Savior, but he knew me, I knew him. And I think that was a big turning point for the rest of my life, just being able to know that I was saved. That's a little bit of my background.
So my background is I am also the youngest in my family of 4 children. That's me over there. It's my brother Jeremiah, my dad Richard, my mom Becky, my other brother BJ, and my sister Crystal. Some of y'all got to meet her. She was here earlier this year. My mom has gone to be with Jesus about 5 years ago, but the rest of us are living all around Nebraska, North Carolina, Colorado. And my family was very religious. We were in church every time the doors were open. My dad was a deacon for a lot of years. And then I remember when I was around 4, someone in my family told me that I needed to ask Jesus into my heart. And what they were telling me was that I was the baby, so all of the rest of my family had already done that. And I hadn't. So they were like, well, when we die, we're going to go to heaven, but you haven't done it, so you won't go. And as a 4-year-old child, that caused a fear of abandonment in me. I was terrified to be left alone. Like my family was going to leave me and go to heaven, and I was going to be here by myself. So I just kind of had this attitude of, what do I do? What do I say? And I repeated the prayer that they told me to pray, and everyone was happy and excited for me. And a few years later, I got water baptized in the church. And I thought I was good, but as I got older, I always questioned if I did it right because of my age and because I didn't know if I really understood what I was doing. And so I remember year after year being in church. Even when I was around 11, my dad became a pastor. And they would do an altar call, and they would, have everyone repeat the prayer if they wanted to invite Jesus into their heart. And so just to kind of cover my bases, I was like, I would say it over and over again. And my dad would, he would say, if you've never said this prayer before, if you have to mean it in your heart. It's not just about saying the words. You have to truly mean it. And so in my simple mind, I would just kind of almost push in my chest. I would push my chest, and I'm like, God, I really mean it. I really, 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 really mean it. I really want you to come into my life, please. Trying to convince myself, I guess, and the Lord that I really meant it. And I won't say that God wasn't in my life, but I didn't understand what it meant to surrender my life to Christ. So I went through that. In my teen years, I kind of got a little more rebellious. Teen years, I got a little more rebellious. I didn't like being in church all the time. I didn't like hearing my father and other people talk about Jesus and saying how we should treat people. And then I got to see the back end of it too, being a PK. I got to see the opposite things, and it impacted me, and I started to resent the things that I was being told. And I was like, they don't even believe what they're saying because they're not living it. They're not doing it. And so my mom would always tell me, you live in a fishbowl because you're the pastor's kid. We're the family. Everyone's watching you. And I hated that so much. I would leave the house, and she would yell after me, remember who you represent? And I think she meant truly that I represented Jesus, but in my mind, I thought she was saying, don't make us look bad as a family. That's how I took it. And I hated it. I hated when she would say it, and I would roll my eyes, and we'd be fighting as a family, or me and my dad would be fighting before church, and I would come in, sit in the back pew with my whole attitude out. Just, I don't care. who sees it? Because mom and dad, they plaster a smile. Everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. We love you. Hi, how are you? And I wasn't going to play their game. I wasn't going to pretend. I wanted people to know. I remember asking my mom, what's wrong with people knowing that we're human, that we struggle? What's wrong with that? And I hated it, and I rebelled against that. So I'll let him pick up.
So, we were kind of high school sweethearts. I was public school, she was homeschool. She showed up, and we just kind of started dating. I guess maybe the bad boy kind of thing came, and she liked that because her dad really didn't like me around. But anyway, so we were high school sweethearts. I'm living like a dual life. I'd go hang out with her in the day, and then 9 o'clock, all right, bye. And I'd go hang out and party with my buddies all night long, but just kind of kept that separate, right? So carry forward a little ways. We're about 18, 19, and we decided to go get married. We live in southern Utah. We're about 2 hours from Las Vegas. It was about midnight when we got married in Las Vegas. Not by Elvis Presley. I know y'all are wondering, but he was already booked.
We tried.
So we got married. Didn't have a real honeymoon. Went back to the southern Utah, Cedar City, and we get to move out. And we got ourselves a little basement apartment. I think it's like $300 a month. We got a $300 a month pay, or a car to pay for, and we're barely making it, right? So knowing I had this reputation in Cedar City, it's a small town, maybe like 20,000 people. There was really no future for me there. I wasn't going to school. I dropped out of high school, and didn't even have my GED at that point. But there was an opportunity to move to northern Nevada, and they're paying about $20 an hour or whatever. I'm like, oh, cool, I can go do labor, make $20. We head up there, and we start a little house up there, little family, and that was probably, early in the year. And by that summer, we found out we were pregnant. So we're married, we're living in Nevada, I'm just working, she's pregnant, and it's just, that's just the cycle we're in. And so it's work, kind of dream about all the things that we want to do, all the places we want to see, and I'm just working. I'm like, oh man, I gotta go do that overtime, make more money, then we can go somewhere else. So, every year tax year would come around, or tax time would come around. You make this much. I'm like, okay, cool. And so made like double that. Oh man, if I made that much money, I'd be rich. A couple of years later, I'm making that much money. I wasn't rich. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? I distinctly remember 2 years ago saying that if I could make this much, all the things that I could do. And where is it? What do I have to show for it? Every year we're in the exact same position, paycheck to paycheck, right? But in that time, I accrued a bigger TV. We bought a house. It was small. We did some upgrades. We did countertops, bought a new car, and just kind of building things. Just, every time we get paid a little more, we kind of grow in our expenses. It gets spent, right? So we're like I'm filling this hole in me with all the things. And I'm like, oh man, that's not big enough. And there's somebody else has a new truck. I'm like, man, that's good. That's it. That's what I need. So I got permission from her. I believe I did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got permission. But there's like almost a brand new truck, less than 10,000 miles on it. Bam, I'm in that bad boy. All blacked out windows, got the big 22-inch wheels. This little town up in northern Nevada, people are looking at me. Who is that? Yeah, they can't even see me in these blacked out windows. That went on about like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then it stopped. And there I am with this truck. And a week after that, so not even a month after I bought the truck, I hadn't made a first payment. Some other guy brings a bigger, better truck. He had the big wheels. It was jacked up. It's better than mine. I'm already jealous, dude. I'm already envious of this guy, and I got my truck that I just barely got. So the little things, I would buy new TVs, and it just kind of is building, and now I got the new truck, and all of a sudden it fell through too. It was supposed to fill that thing. That was what I needed, right? To make me feel better, all the fruit of my labor, basically. Well, I'm like, man, maybe it's not things. What about, we got 2 kids at this point. I'm married. I'm like, maybe that's the problem. maybe this woman isn't making me happy. So I'm filling my life with temporary satisfactions. Worked my way up to a vehicle. Now I'm starting to move on to different relationships. One thing leads to another. I'm talking to other women. I'm unfaithful. And knowing what I did, knowing that I betrayed my entire family, my boys, it hurt, but it filled me for a minute, right? So this happened a couple times. And every time, I get that shame and that guilt. What do you do with that? Some of y'all been in that position before. I hate it for you. It hurts. But you take that and you tuck it in, right? So nobody else can see it. Nobody can know. You can't tell anybody what you just did, but you take it and you hide it. And what do you do with that then? So it's growing. This weight, this burden that's inside of you, it hurts. Well, knowing that I had this history of drug and alcohol abuse, when I was a kid, I got this job. I can't do drugs. I got to pass a drug test, so alcohol is legal. I keep leaning into that. It starts out weekends, just to kind of cover up, and I feel better. Okay, good. Weekends turns into, by the time I get off of work, next thing I know, I'm drinking when I get home. And then I'm buying it before I even get home, and I'm drinking. And even after a night shift, I come home and I grab that bottle of Jaeger out of the freezer and go. I had no reason. It was just a habit. Why did I do this? I don't know. So I developed this habit, and it just covers up this pain that's inside of me. Anxiety. I'm going to the doctor. I'm getting the prescriptions. He starts me out on antidepressants. I already experimented with this stuff in high school. I know what I want. I want that anxiety medication. I make it through all the antidepressants. Boom, he finally gives me what I want. Boom, it does. It helps with the anxiety. I'm just treating the symptoms of what I had created on my own, right? So now I'm an alcoholic not an alcoholic. Yeah, an alcoholic. And I'm using drugs. I'm covering up all these anxiety and bad feelings of myself. This goes on for several years.
So during that time, I was a stay-at-home mom, had Shaden and Hartley, and Phil and I didn't really fight a whole lot, and I used to think that was a good thing. But while he was dealing with that, I was at home feeling alone, like I was raising these kids by myself. Like after having Hartley, they were back to back, 11 months apart, and so we were like, "Oh, that was a lot. Wait, hang on." So I got on birth control to make sure it didn't happen again, and I believe that contributed to a hormonal imbalance in me, where I became depressed, and I didn't want to get out of bed. I would function as much as I needed to for the boys, and that was about it. And before he would get home in the afternoon, I would shower and put my face on and hair and everything just so he didn't ever see me that way. Because I had shame. I was ashamed of the battle that I was going through. And so neither of us was communicating our own struggles with each other. We just kept it. We were like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta do this. He's got his own stuff. And so we didn't fight because neither of us wanted the confrontation. So we would both just kind of swallow our feelings and we'd make each other upset or whatever. We'd just swallow it. I distinctly remember days where I would put the boys down for a nap and I would go in the shower and I would sit in front of the mirror and look at myself, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but it wasn't me staring back at me. And I would tear myself apart. I would tell myself, "You're a terrible mother. You're a terrible wife. Your husband doesn't love you. He's just stuck with you. He wants somebody else, someone else who's better, more fit, more beautiful, can give him what he wants. Your kids deserve better than you. You don't deserve your family." And I would cry, literally speaking these words over myself. And I did that a lot. Again, just kind of kept it a secret. And then we ended up moving from Nevada back to Utah. I thought that was going to be really great because it was closer to his family. So I had family around, and I love his family to death. His sister is one of my best friends. I love his mother. And so I was excited for that, and I thought, because I could see the discontent in him, and I thought maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he misses his family. Maybe he needs that comfort of home. So we moved to Utah, not to Cedar City where he was from, but a town just a little ways away. There was a mine there. And I went to a church that actually my father used to pastor before, and there was now new pastors. I was hesitant to go there because I figured they would look at me and like, oh, it's Richard's daughter, and she's a PK, and she knows all the things. Let's throw her in and have her serve. And I didn't want to do that. I had been forced to serve as a child. Like, when you're a PK, you got to do all the things. You're scrubbing toilets, you're vacuuming, you're watching babies, I was singing, I was doing all these things. So I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to come in. The only reason I wanted to go to church was because I knew that my boys needed Jesus. Phil and I thought we were good. We didn't need him, but we knew that our kids did. So I get involved with the church there, and these people were different because they knew who I was, but they never had any expectation of me to do anything in the church. And I watched them interact with people in the community that had reputations. And they didn't treat them any differently than anybody else. And I was just in awe, and I thought, this is what I've been missing my whole life. This is what I've been looking for. This is Jesus. This is the Jesus that I've been taught about in their life. And so I came to the conclusion that they had something that I didn't have, and I wanted it. So one day we were having the altar call, standing there in the pew, and I was like, Jesus, I need you in my life. I'm going to give you my life. I know what it means now. I didn't know what it meant before, but I know, and I'm making that choice. Because I need what they have. I need the joy. I need the love, the genuine love for other people. I need that. And so I surrendered my life to Christ, but I didn't tell anybody because I thought they were all going to, you mean she's not? She hasn't been saved? She was a pastor's daughter, all these things. I thought that was going to happen, but it wouldn't have. But I kept it a secret. But after that time, I couldn't get enough of coming to church. I just wanted to be there all the time. I wanted to be with those people. I wanted to learn scripture. Like, all the scripture I had been just force-fed my entire life was suddenly clicking in my brain. It was making sense. And I was like, oh, that's what that means. And so I had a huge advantage because I was raised in church, and we were in Awanas, I was in Sunday school, all the things. I had a huge advantage, but it was finally making sense to me. And I just hungered for more. And I would bring the boys with me, and they would love my children. And the closer I got to the Lord, the further he got.
I remember that little town of Milford. About 3,000 people, just hardly anybody, right? Everybody knew everybody's business. They all knew each other's names. So she's going to this church. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing on the side. We're still together. I'm still burying all the shame. I'm still living for the world, just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And I see her getting closer to these church people. And I'm like, man, why are you going there? You know, whatever. Just kind of discouraging it. I show up when I need to. Amen. All right. See y'all. Go back to the house. And I'm kind of worried. The closer she gets to these people, the closer they get to me. I'm fixing to get exposed. I don't want that. I'm still hiding in the dark best I can. So, you know, and I it's like, let's go back to Cedar City. So we decide, I talk her into it. I give her all the reasons. Hey, I'm pretty adamant that I want to move to Cedar. It's about an hour away from there. Back in my mind is like, yeah, it's cooler. It's the bigger city. I can do more things, but at the same time, it provides that space between her and them people that she's getting so close to. And phew, that kind of saves me because now they're not going to find out who I really am. So we moved to Cedar City, and while I'm at that mine, still working in Milford, an hour away, I went through all that effort to try to keep myself hidden. But everything's still building up on me. This anxiety, the shame, everything else. And I finally get to the point where I'm like, all right, this ain't working. I'm going to pull the plug. So, of course, I'm talking to another woman. And I come to Erin one day. I'm like, hey, I kind of want to separate. This is not working. I'm not happy. Let's separate. And in my mind, I know what's really going on. In my mind, I'm like, man, you don't deserve none of that. You don't deserve a wife and kids. You don't deserve anything. Just believing all the lies. And I didn't. I was terrible, terrible human. But feeling unworthy of Erin, I wanted my boys to have the dad that they deserved. They didn't deserve me, this guy who's going to betray them all the time. And I'm at the point where I'm believing that I could never change. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a liar, always a liar. This is just the way people are. You can't change that. I can't change that. I know the mind's a powerful thing, but we are who we are, right? So that's my thought process. When we separate, I follow through with this illegitimate relationship. We're a few months in. It's not going well. My goodness, I was miserable. I thought I was unhappy when we were married, but now I'm just miserable, dude. Like, what did I get myself into? The car's breaking down. Got less money. Bills coming in. I'm in a bad way right now. And this is the deepest, one of the lowest points I've been in my entire life. And I go get my favorite part on a little mountain there in southern Utah. I've got all them pills. He basically doubled my prescription because my anxiety got so bad. And I'm like, hey, doctor, this ain't working. So, I got this stack of pills. I don't even need the alcohol at this point. And I go up to the top of the mountain. It's quiet. It's beautiful. I can hear the elk bugling. If y'all ever heard that in real life, it's really cool. I'm looking at that bottle. And in the silence, something's telling me this isn't it. This is not how it ends. That was God.
So when he came to me telling me that he wanted a separation, I was shocked. Landon was about 3 months old. And my immediate thought was, who is she? And in my mind, I like to think I would fight somebody, but I probably wouldn't. I act tough, but he's like, there's nobody. There's nobody else. He's like, I haven't loved you for years. And when he said those words, I remember it's like in the movies where like someone gives you bad news and you hear this ringing in your ears. That's actually a thing. Like your body goes into shock. And I remember that. And he was over there talking, wah, wah, wah. I don't know what he was saying because my whole world just fell and collapsed. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I asked him, I said, can you stay here with the boys? I just need to go for a drive. I just need to think and collect myself. He's like, yeah. So I leave the boys with him, and I call his sister, who's one of my closest friends, and I tell her, I'm like, he told me he wants to separate. What do? I didn't know what to do. I couldn't process a thought. And so she met with me, and she was like, I think you should call your brother or your parents or something, and we should take you there. You and the boys should go to your parents because you'll be safe there. You'll have somewhere to go. I wasn't working at the time because I had the boys. And so my sister-in-law and her husband actually drove the boys and I from Utah to Colorado overnight, 10-hour drive. And I remember in the car ride, the boys had fallen asleep. It was dark. I was in the back seat. and I would just cry off and on. But the Lord spoke to me, and he said, this isn't the end. He said, everything that's happening right now is part of the process that I have to take you through for Philip to come to me. And I heard that voice, and I don't remember a time in my life before that I ever heard the voice and I knew that it was God. But that time I did, and I knew it, and I held on to that. And when we finally arrived at my parents' house, I was telling my sister-in-law goodbye. They were going to catch a flight back home. And she's apologizing for her brother. I'm sorry that he's putting you through this. You don't deserve this. I'm so sorry. And I just hugged her and I said, it's okay. This isn't the end. God told me last night on our way here that this is all part of the process and it's going to bring Philip to God. And she was like, okay. And I don't know if she believed it in the moment or if she was just like, hey, she got a positive thought. Let's hold on to that. Like, let's run with that, I don't know. Maybe she did believe it. I don't know. But I believed it. There was just something in me that I believed that no matter what. And so I stayed in Colorado for 6 months. I enrolled the boys into school. I got a job. I was just like, okay, we're just going to go. I don't know what he's doing. We'd have phone calls every now and then. I didn't really like to talk to him because it hurt too much. And he would call and talk to the boys pretty often. But there would be times where he would call and tell me something that was going on. Oh, this girl moved in and, whatever. And I'm just like, it's just more nails in the coffin to me. Like, this is it. This is over, But I wouldn't allow myself to believe that. So anytime we spoke, it didn't matter what he said to me, if it was hateful, if it hurt, I would always end the call with, I love you. And there was a time when he was filing divorce papers and he needed the boys' information for the custody and all that stuff. So he called me to get their social security numbers. And he texted me beforehand and told me, hey, I'm going to call you. I need this. And so I just prayed before the phone call. And I was like, Lord, you said this wasn't the end. So I'm not going to fight him for custody. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to take you at your word that the papers are going to get lost or something's going to happen. I don't know. But you're going to do something. So he called. I give him these, their information. And at the end of the call, I was like, can I pray for you? And he was like, yeah. And so I prayed, and I don't remember what I prayed. There were so many times when we would speak that I wanted to hurt him back. I wanted him to feel what I was feeling, because in my mind, he was off living it up. He didn't have kids. The woman he was with had a daughter, but it was just him and this other woman, and he was finally happy because I had believed the lies from years before, that was what would make him happy, that I couldn't, that it was my fault, and so now that he was rid of me, he could finally be happy. So I thought that, and I found out later he wasn't living up like I thought. But I was like, well, he doesn't have me to nag him about his drinking or anything else, so he's probably happier. But during that time, I had people that I love, my family. My dad's no longer a pastor, but my brother is a pastor, and I'm going to them to kind of vent and just like, what do I do here? And I had people in that little town that knew my business that I didn't even know. Somehow my business was getting out in this town, and I didn't like that. I had someone come up to me one time and give me a recommendation for their divorce lawyer that they had used before. My family was telling me, you have biblical grounds for divorce. Let him go. And as painful as that was, I had people from that original church where I actually accepted the Lord that had reached out to me. And one of the ladies, she told me, she's like, you're living what I've already been through. And she's like, and I'm here to show you and tell you that everything you're going through, it's not the end. That God's promise to you is true. And I'm living proof of that. And I had no idea, looking at them as a couple, I had no idea their story because they were just a tight-knit, really awesome family. And so every time I'd message her and I'd be like, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay. She's like, my husband did the same thing. And what did I do during that time? I went to the Lord every single time. So she would always point me to Jesus, point me to Jesus. I would fall apart at work. I'd be crying. I was a custodian at a nursing home, so I was scrubbing toilets and scrubbing poop off the walls and all the things, but I was mopping the floor with my tears because the lies in my head were just bombarding me constantly. That I was worthless and that I was a piece of trash. I wasn't worthy. No one would ever love me, ever. And so I would have worship music in my ear just to try and drown out the sound of all those other voices. When I wasn't at work, I would go home. I'd pick up Landon. The other boys, they had cousins there that they were always playing with. And I would just sit in my room and listen to sermons and worship and just bury myself in the Word because it was the only time that I felt peace. So then some time passed, and we decided that we were going to try and work it out. And the boys and I packed up and went back to Utah to be with him. My family told me I was crazy. My family told me I was stupid. I had people tell me, if I was you, I would never. If my husband ever did that. And I said, okay. I said the same thing. But you don't know until you're in the situation what you will actually do. You don't know. Like I said, I talk tough. I would be like, if he ever, girl can catch these hands and so is he. I'm going to find somebody to help me bury the body. I don't know, we all think that. But when you're faced with the situation, it doesn't happen that way. And I fully believe that the reason that those things, when I would speak to him and I would pray and I would speak love over him, even though in my flesh I wanted to hurt him back, was because of all the time that I was soaking in God. Because he was filling me, and then he would push me, and it would spill out all over him. I remember telling his family, he needs you guys. I'm fine. I'm good. I got my family. He needs you. You guys got to go reach out. And they didn't want to. And so even though I was the one that he was hurting, I was also the only one who would pray for him. I was the only one who would say, I love you anyways. I don't care what you're telling me. He would confess things to me over the phone and be like, well, I did this years ago and this and this and this, to try and prove to me that he wasn't worthy of the love that I was giving him. And I said, I don't care. I've forgiven you already. I don't care what you confess to me. It's already forgiven. It wasn't my love. It was God's love that was flowing through me onto him.
I remember that. I remember confessing, this is what I did that, what about this? And back in the day when you were there, I did that. And she just kept going, I forgive you. I'm like, what? You should be madder at me now. I'm doing everything I can to prove the enemy right. But the Jesus in her wasn't going to let it happen. So that forgiveness, I was just baffled. Where did that come from? Why does she not want to just bury me? Just like she just said, I deserve that. So I was so confused. But, after getting to the point where I was up on the mountain and thinking about ending it all, well, I didn't. I'm still here. I'm like, all right, the mind is a powerful thing. I can do better. I don't want what I just created. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go back. So, hey, babe, will you come back, live with us? I got rid of that other relationship. I'm going to do better under my own will. I know I could do better. I'm sorry. She comes back. But we're there in southern Utah. We had a disaster, man. I couldn't go into Walmart without the anxiety just almost overwhelming me. And so there's an opportunity in the Carolinas. There's a gold mine out there. And so, hey, we're like, hey, let's go get this fresh, clean slate. We'll move out there. Nobody knows us. We'll start all over again. That's what we need. We need a clean slate. So there we go. We take the boys and move all the way to the Carolinas. This is late 2016. And I'm moving forward in life under my own strength. We got that clean slate. We escaped that disaster that I created and left in southern Utah. And I'm like, all right, I could do this. I can do all things through me who strengthens me, was my thought process. It's me. I'm my God. Whatever's going to happen to me is going to be because I did it or I didn't do it, right? That was my thought process. And slowly start slipping back into those old habits. I'm still drinking. And it's like a python, dude. That thing just kind of wraps around you real slow and just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And there I am, talking to another woman again. In the Carolinas, this whole clean slate that we just created, been there for just a few years, I guess, at that point. And this time I got caught. She got caught, or I got caught, and she knew it. So after a night of just getting completely drunk, we went to a concert, and I got caught. I wake up, and I go up to the room. I see that look on her face. She looked like she didn't sleep all night. She'd been crying, and there's my laundry basket. And she goes, I know what you did. I saw your phone. But I'm not leaving, you are. I said, fair enough. I do want my boys to have a good house over their head, and they got nowhere to go right now. Fair enough, I'm out. I'll head out. And I go and live with I go to my boss. He's heavy in alcohol also, but he's got a little camper trailer I can stay at, so I freeze to death in that thing for several weeks. Find a little house, a little roommate, and get that little place. Freeze to death over there too. Man, you think the Carolinas wouldn't be that cold, but this was like early in the year, and it was cold. And I'm deeply dependent on alcohol. I wrecked my truck. I'm unfaithful again. I'm feeling worthless. I'm feeling guilty. I remember all these feelings. The enemy's back, but I didn't look at it like that. This is me. I should have known. That poor woman, she gave me another chance, and I wrecked it again. So we're talking, and it's an emotional talk, of course, because I'm over here trying to do my laundry, trying to beg for whatever. And I'm like, hey, this is just me. People don't change. Either you accept it or you don't. It runs in my family. Look at my family. Look at my dad. He was an alcoholic. He never was part of the picture. Look at my mom and the relationship she got into. She got into alcoholic relationships with other men. My sisters, they have their own struggles. I was like, this is just me. I fully embraced the lies of the enemy that people don't change, and this is just me. This is just how it's going to have to be. But for some reason, when she kicked me out that time, I get over here. She's over at her house. I'm over at my place. And I'm in a dark place. And that's what I want. I just barely got kicked out of my house. And I just want the woman that I had the whole time. Well, now that I can't have it, that's what I want. But what is that? There was something inside of me that just wanted her. I'm feeling like I'm over here in the darkness. I'm spiraling downhill. And she has something that I don't have, and I don't know what it is. But she's always had this content feeling. Where does she get this forgiveness and grace from? But at this point, she's done with me. She's like, I'll leave you to your own vices or whatever. And I'm in this room. It's dark. It's freezing because my little space heater won't turn on. And I'm crying out to God. I don't even want that beer that I just bought, that 24-pack. But I cry out to God. I'm like, God, I don't know what this is. I don't know what to do with me, but you do. So at that point, I truly accepted and embraced God, and he manifested in that room with me. It was cold, but I felt the arms of the Holy Spirit wrap around me. He will come to you in your deepest, darkest place, and he will pick you back up. So from that point, I'm like, this is February 14th, 2019. It's a beautiful thing. I remember it vividly. That was when I gave my life to Jesus, when I truly started a relationship. But knowing I failed under my own strength, knowing that I cannot do all things through me who strengthens me. But when I was saved in that room that night, all that weight, all that burden of all the things that I did was lifted from me. It was gone. I don't need alcohol no more. I don't need that medication. I was freed of depression, anxiety, guilt, shame. All was gone. That was God working in my life. So now I'm like, okay, I feel much better. Thank you, Jesus. But how do I get this back? I know that my words don't mean anything. I know that my actions only speak for maybe, 6 months at best? I said, God, if this is going to actually happen and come back together, it's going to be you, because I already burned all my bridges. So from that point, I start walking in his strength. I surrender to God. I give it to him. I give my job to him. I give my life to him. He does. He heals the wounds between Erin and I. We were reunited maybe about a couple months after I gave my life to Jesus Christ. But at that point, he was telling me, if you want this back, you're going to have to court that woman. He says, that's my daughter, and you're going to treat her right. So I took her on some dates. I'm not trying to satisfy my physical needs. I'm more concerned about her as a person and her healing. That's my priority. I know what I just did to her. I know how deep that wound was. But I'm worried about her as a person. So from that point, we've been walking in his strength. I'm surrendered to his will. I'm seeking his direction, learning his ways. And no, it's not everything's not all perfect. We're definitely going through our struggles and stuff, but it's not like, oh, a struggle. It's just, with God, all things are possible. So when the little things flare up, the little things start coming after us, it's like, hey, we got God. We don't need that. We're good. But I learned several very valuable lessons through all of this. And this is just like a broad overview of it all. But I think at the very beginning of when we were youth, we had love confused. I thought love was supposed to make me happy. I thought love was, I fall into love, I could fall out of love, right? I remember telling her that at one point in time, like, hey, I fell out of love with you. But over the course of this, I find out that love is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's not something you fall in and out of. Love is a choice. I didn't know that. I thought I was supposed to be happy all the time. The pastor was just preaching about that a couple weeks ago. Who told you you're supposed to be happy all the time? You're not going to be happy all the time. But if you have the joy of the Lord, that's the important part. In doing all this also, surrendering to his will. I heard that so many times. You got to surrender to God. You got to surrender your will to his will. How do I do that, Is it, okay, I surrender. I mean, I'm going to church. It's Sunday. It's 10 to 12, but I got to get to that game. That's a whole other story.
So, he's throwing me out there on this one. We rehearsed this last night. He was supposed to take this one. No, surrender. I just want to talk about surrender. Because I remember telling him at times, like, you know what you need to do. Just do it already. Because I would get so frustrated. I remember the promise. And I had come to a point where when we separated again and I kicked him out, I was like, I can't do this anymore, God. I know you promised me that it wasn't the end, that it wasn't going to end in divorce and all this other stuff. But I just don't see it. I've fought for years for him, and he still continues to do the same thing. And he would tell me, this is just who I am, and I would get so frustrated because I'm like, you are that way because you're choosing to be that way. Every single time that you choose to text somebody or to pick up the drink on the way home or to do whatever, it's a choice. It's a small thing that leads to way bigger things. And I was frustrated because he wasn't seeing that. And I would tell him, you just need to surrender to God. You just need to surrender to God. But I had to surrender him completely. In the beginning, I felt like, okay, God, I'm supposed to be this person for him. I felt like I was supposed to save him. I took that burden on myself and felt like I had to save him. Yes, it was God through me, but it was my job. And so I felt like I was failing at that. I was like, I don't know what else to do, God. I've done it all. I don't know. It's been years. And nothing has changed. It changed for a little while, and then it would go back. And I remember the physical feeling of God pushing Philip out of my heart. And I remember hating that, and I was like, God, this doesn't make sense. Why would you push him out of my heart? Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. But I couldn't, it was like I couldn't fight it. It was just continuously like, let him go, let him go, let him go. And I was so afraid of where he would fall, because there were many times throughout that process that I thought he hit rock bottom. I thought when he lost his job, I walked around my parents' house singing, God is on the move, hallelujah. Because I was like, this is it. This is the final thing that he's going to hit rock bottom. I did that so many times, and it was never the bottom. The bottom is way deeper than you think it is. And so when I finally released him and I said, God, I'm stepping out of the way. I love him, but you love him more. And I've tried to speak to him. I've tried to reach him, but I can't. Only you can reach him at this point. And it was only then when I fully let him go. I thought I had surrendered him before, and I thought I let him go before, but this was a whole other level. We had a soul tie that he even talked about. Like, even though he was doing other things, there was this connection that we had. We're meant to be together. We had a soul tie. And when God severed that, I was a little bit scared, but I was firm and secure in who I was and that God was going to take care of me and the boys. I didn't have that in the beginning when we first separated because my identity was wrapped up in my marriage. I didn't know who I was anymore when he left. So before, I was shaking, my whole world collapsed, and I fell with it. But I believe that God allows these things to happen in our lives because he needs to show us that whatever that is that you built on, your career, your marriage, your children, your relationship, whatever it is, it can't sustain the weight of your identity. Only he can. Only he can be that firm foundation. So when I let him go, I didn't waver. I didn't move. And when he left, it was just kind of like, okay, God's got us. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how I'm going to provide. I don't know how I'm going to, he was willing to help with the house payment and stuff, but I didn't know. So I had to surrender him. And then he had to surrender to God. And because we both surrendered, that's why the Lord came in and he brought us back together. And I had people, my mom passed away in the process of that, like right after he got saved. And he went to the funeral with us, and I had family coming and hugging me, and they were looking at him all type of ways, like, what are you doing here? And I just thought, you know what? Even if we weren't together, this man loved my mother. She was impacted by his life. My mom's funeral was standing room only. We had people online. She was a powerful woman of God. And so I was over there sticking up for him again. I stood up for him in the middle of our separation. I stood up for him against my family, against everybody. And that's what God does for you. When you come before in the courts of heaven, you're like, this is my life. I'm guilty of all these things. My debt is too much. I can't pay it. I can't pay for it. I've gotten myself in too much debt. And Jesus comes and he stands up for you. And he says, I've already paid for it. My blood covers a multitude of sins.
Right.
My love covers a multitude of sins. One of the things that we had to learn through the process after we started reconciling, we had to rebuild on him. He was our firm foundation. He is the reason why we are standing here today. He's the reason we've continued to push through all those little trials. Everything seems little in comparison to that now. But it's because of him. This is his story. And if anybody in here is in the middle of that, I want you to know, like, God already authored your entire story. And just like when you read a book, whether it's the Bible or any other book, you don't stop in the middle of it when the person is in the worst position. You know, this isn't the end. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to keep watching to see what is going to happen at the end of this story. So don't stop short of the end of the story. You got to keep reading. Keep turning the page, like Brother Walter said. There's another page. There's another chapter. Yes, that was a chapter in our lives that forever changed all of it. But our story was written before we were even born. God knew that we would be here today. He brought every single one of you here today because this is part of your story. It's written in heaven. It will come to pass.
Well, that's just the condensed version, the very, very condensed version of our lives. We figured we didn't want to keep you here till 3 o'clock or anything, but there's more. There's a lot of lessons we learned throughout that, but that's what God laid us on our heart to bring to y'all today. And I want y'all to know the enemy's on attack. He doesn't like families. He does not like marriage. He does not like love. He's going to lie to you. So pray for each other. Pray for your pastors. I know that even just preparing for this testimony, fairly simple as testimony is my story, the enemy was on attack. So knowing that our pastors do this every week, pray for your pastors. All right. I believe that's all we have for now.